Well, good afternoon, folks. It's Shooter. Hey, welcome to FOMC Day. Hey, I want to go over the SPY count. There's a couple things I see here. I think we're approaching a crossroads. I just sort of want to make sure everybody has a heads up on that and then how we potentially might trade that. So at the end of this presentation, do please review our disclosures. Now, taking a look at the monthly chart on the SPY, we've been in this pattern for a long time, back from 2020. We put in this nice arch, this nice, it's really, I consider it a cycle. Now, our current count suggests that we continue higher, maybe to 494, break down to 450 range, and then head towards 520 towards, later in 2024. So we've got a long uptrend that we potentially have here. However, when I jump down to the 4 hour and I start looking at my insanity when I look at a chart, I see this broadening pattern here. And right now, the count that I have is one scan that I ran. I think we head to 401, and we break down again, maybe 399 and 401 and target 3. And then we potentially could break down. So we could have this as a 2, 3, 4, 5 down here. So now the one thing about L8 wave, you hear me all the time talk about 3 5s and 8s, so basically a 3 drive is a setup. It's a pattern that we have, and then we have drives, which are something that's separate. So in every leg up, this is a drive, this is a drive, this corrective drive, corrective drive, corrective. Okay. So here I'm looking at this grouping here is drive 1, and this is drive 2, and I'm thinking this is drive 3. So one thing that I always have to consider is that the third drive will overshoot because it really likes to do that. I don't know what percentage it does it, but whenever I don't consider it, it always does it. So I'm thinking maybe a 407 is an overshoot, and that should get that done. Let me bring on a Fibonacci extension tool just to measure this. Now, of course, like I've shown in a prior video, is how we want to measure it is where we think our leg is going to be. And let me just do our retrace. So looking at where we would potentially go. So I'm looking at a 392 target. So how I would want to trade this. So let me come in and bring in a alert on this speed line. So that would give us a 403.24 potentially where we break down. So my final target that I would be looking at is 50% back. So, I'd be looking for a 392.96. Whether we put it on top here or a top here, and then we break down. Now, I also like this, since the count is telling me we're in an uptrend. Let me jump back to the weekly so we can show you that again. Again, the count is to the upside. All right. So, if that manifests, this is sort of my thinking. So we're going to come into that 403.24, and we're going to start putting pieces on. Now, you can sell covered calls. In this situation, I'd rather buy May 400 puts, 400, close to the money, about a 25 delta. Not quite a 25 delta, just shy of that, only because it has a likelihood of following through in either direction. So if we continue to push, we're still going to get a back test, and that back test should be at least to the 382. So if we push to that 407 where I think we go, we should get a back test to about 396. So if I have 400 put, I'm roughly $3.75 in the money. I'm good with that. Okay, so, like I've said in the past, when we consider a setup, we want to look at both sides of the tape. Where are we going to be? Where are we going to land if it continues to go against us, or it goes in the direction that we think we're going to go? And the idea is that we want to land flat or a little bit in the money all the time, regardless of whether we're right or wrong. And if we're right, we want to bank a 50 to 300% gain is the objective. So that's what I wanted to share as far as the look. So again, at 403, I'm going to be selling some May put or buying some May 400 puts. May 400 puts. Buy them. Don't sell them. Then obviously, as it continues to work, I will post the breakdowns, but I will get alerts on this, and I will try and stay steadfast with that because I think this is going to be a decent trade. And I also think that if we do migrate to this, if we do migrate to the downside, if we break down here, we could go down to 204. I don't like the way that looks. Whenever I start seeing that, and the reason is higher high, lower high, lower high, lower high. Okay, and we really haven't gotten euphoric here yet. Usually when you're pushing, you get the higher range of the bars. So you notice how it's on the high side of the bars, high side of the bars, high side of the bars, high side of the bars. Where are we? Low side of the bars, low side of the bars, low side of the bars. So all we need is to get more low side of the bars. And that's sort of, it looks to me like a trend down just looking at that. So, just taking that all into consideration, I think there's a chance that we, run into some resistance here. We've already back tested it, rejected it, back tested it here, rejected it. Okay. And what do I like in Elliott wave? 3 5s and 8s. So I'm looking at this as 1 rejection, 2 rejection. I'm expecting to get a 3rd rejection here, and then a little bit lower to at least back test 4, which would take us back past the 50%. So that is how I'm looking at this trade. I just want to make sure I shared that with you. Great trading. Until next time.